Today we're going to look at the greatest common factor. Common factors are factors shared by two or more numbers. The greatest common factor, also known as GCF, is the largest number shared by two or more numbers. There are a couple of methods to use when finding the greatest common factor. One way is by making a list. We call this a rainbow list because we connect the factor pairs to make sure we don't miss any of the numbers. Here in our list for 36, we start with 1 and 36. 1 times 36 is 36. Now we use our divisibility rules to see what other numbers are factors of 36. 36 is even, so 2 is a factor. 2 times 18 is a factor pair. Now if I didn't know that 18 was paired with 2, I could take my calculator and divide 36 by 2 and get 18. Then I go to the number 3. When I add the digit 6 plus 3, I get 9. 9 is divisible by 3, and so 36 is also divisible by 3. 3 is paired with 12 to give us 36. Now I go to 4. 4 times 9 is 36, and so I'll include it in the list. 5 is not a factor of 36 because this does not end in a 0 or a 5. But 6 is. 6 times 6 is 36, and now I've listed all of the factors of 36. Now we'll list the factors of 24. Start with 1 and the number itself, so 1 and 24 are together. I go to 2 now. 24 is even, so 2 is a factor. 2 is paired with 12 to give 24. Now 3. 4 plus 2 is 6, and 6 is divisible by 3, so 24 is also divisible by 3. 3 times 8 is 24. Now 4. 4 times 6 is 24. We check 5, but this doesn't end in 0 or a 5, so we're done because now 6 is already on the list. Notice we have several common factors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. But 12 is the greatest factor that is in both lists, so the GCF is 12. Now we'll try it out. We'll make a rainbow list for 18 and for 30. We'll start with 18. 1 and 18 are factor pairs. 1 times 18 is 18. Now we'll go to 2. 18 is even. 2 times 9 is 18. Now we'll go to 3. 8 plus 1 is 9. 9 is divisible by 3, so 18 is divisible by 3. 3 times 6 is 18. We'll check 4. 4 does not go evenly into 18. 5 does not go evenly into 18. This does not end in a 0 or a 5. 6 does, but it's already on the list, so my list is done. Now let's make a list below for 30. We'll start with 1 and 30. 1 times 30 is 30. Now we'll check 2. 30 is even, so 2 is also a factor. Now if I don't know what number goes with the 2, I take my calculator and I'll divide 30 divided by 2, and I'll get a 15. 2 and 15 are factor pairs of 30. Now I'll check 3. 3 plus 0, or 30. 3 plus 0 is 3 divided by 3, so 30 is divisible by 3. 3 times 10 gives us 30. There's another factor pair. 4 does not go evenly into 30 because 4 times 7 is 28 and 4 times 8 is 32. 5 will go into 30 because 30 ends in a 0. 5 times 6 is 30. Once you have back-to-back numbers, you are done. And we've listed all of the factors of 30. We have a lot of commons. 1, 2, 3, The greatest common factor is 6. Here's another method of finding the greatest common factor. It's called the ladder method. It's just like the ladder method from the lesson on least common multiple. The only difference is, as we build our ladders and we find our results, we will not use an L circle like we did yesterday. Today, we're only using the numbers on the side of the ladder for the GCF. In this particular problem, I was finding the GCF of 36 and 24. So I started with the 2 because I noticed that they were both even. 2 times 18 was 36, and 2 times 12 was 24. Then I had to continue my ladder because 18 and 12 still had factors that were the same. I noticed that 6 goes into both 18 and 12. 6 times 3 is 18, and 6 times 2 is 12. Once I got here, I was done. Both of these are prime. There's no other factor that I can pull from these two. So then I circled the 2 on the side, and I'll multiply those two together. 2 times 6 is 12, and so the GCF equals 12. Okay, let's try it with 48 and 88. So first we put our ladder around 48 and 88. All right, we can start with 2 again because they're both even. Okay, 2 will go into 48 24 times. Now, if you don't know how to do that, remember, type 48 divided by 2 to give you the 24. When you're trying to find a factor pair, use the opposite operation to find the missing number. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So that's why we can divide to find the unknown. We can do the same thing here. 88 divided by the 2 will give us 44. That's the factor pair. 2 times 44 is 88. All right, so these still are even, so I can build my ladder. We'll put another 2 here. 2 will go into 24 12 times. 2 will go into 44 22 times. Again, just use your calculator if you need to. 44 divided by 2 is 22. Okay, they're still even. Let's build another edge of the ladder. We'll put a 2 here. 2 will go into 12 6 times. See, 2 times 6 is 12. 2 will go into 22 11 times. 2 times 11 is 22. Now, there's not a factor I can pull from 6 and 11, so I'm done. And I want the GCF today. So I'm only going to use these numbers here on the side. 2 times 2 times 2 will give me 8. So 8 is the GCF of 48 and 88. If I wanted the LCM, I could have made an L circle and multiplied everything together to get the LCM. But today I just wanted the GCF. Okay, try one with 3. Let's try 10, 25, and 70. Build your ladder. I'll need a number that goes into all 3. I notice they all end in 0 or 5, so I'll put a 5 here. 5 will go into 10. 5 will go into 25 5 times. 5 will go into 70 14. And if you needed to check that, remember you could type 70 divided by 5, and you'll see that that answer is 14. Now, there is not a factor that will come out of all 3 numbers together. So our GCF of all 3 is the 5. I'm going to label it GCF. So, we're done with the GCF. Now let's suppose I asked for the LCM of all 3 numbers. I cannot simply do my L circle at this point because the 2 and the 14 still have a factor that needs to be pulled out. So here's what we do in this situation. I'm going to indent the ladder. This indentation shows that the number I put on the side is not a part of the GCF of all 3. It's just a number we will need to pull out to find the LCM. Notice back here on this other problem, when I was building my ladder, I kept the ladder nice and straight because all of these numbers were going to be used as part of the GCF. Here, again, since I already found the GCF of all three, I indent the ladder. So 2 and 14 still have a 2 in common. So I'll put the 2 here. 2 goes into 2 one time. Now remember, I'm not pulling anything from the 5, so I'm just going to drop it down. 2 will go into 14 7 times. Now my bottom is 1, 7, 1, 5, and 7. So I've got nothing else to pull out. For LCM, I'll circle everything on the outside like we did yesterday. The line's a little bumpy here. And so for LCM, I will need to do 5 times 2 times 1 times 5 times 7. So we get our calculators and type in 5 times 2 times 1 times 5 times 7. And we get 350. So the LCM will be 350.